Well, like most artists in whatever genre or field of endeavor, I derive what we call inspiration from many different sources. Sometimes it's from literature, sometimes it's from music itself, sometimes it's an observation of natural phenomena and so on. But ultimately, it's always oral for me. I imagine the sound world, which I then notate and give to the musicians to bring into reality. In this particular case, the titles give you some sense. They are in fact derived from a poem called Fern Hill by Dylan Thomas, the Welsh poet, and it's a poem I've known for a long, long time. I think the poet, he's recalling his own boyhood on a particular farm which belonged to a family member, and obviously he used to roam free and loose in the fields and do all the things that boys do with the animals, and just generally be at home feeling boyish at that time for the 6 days of the week, and he would love that. But then on the Sunday, which I assume it's a Protestant Sabbath, which in Wales, certainly during his youth, was a very, very quiet day indeed, and I can imagine that for a small boy it was rather dull. And he simply says the Sabbath rang slowly, suggesting that it was only the church bells that periodically punctuated the day and made it seem probably even longer than it might otherwise have done. Everything's closed, everybody's dressed to go to chapel or to church and so on. But musically speaking, the piece begins with actually with harps playing very softly, sustained by the strings. And that's, in a sense, the first bell, but the whole 10-minute piece, movement, is punctuated by bells which get deeper, more dense, louder, until it finally hits in a huge cacophony of bells, which is almost deafening, I think. The overall title of the work is Chains Like the Sea, and then there are two movements. The first movement is titled The Sabbath Rang Slowly, and the second movement is entitled Rivers of Windfall Light, Rivers of the Windfall Light. Correlations between titles and the actual acoustic music phenomenon as it comes out, unless it's a direct program description, are hard to make. But I think the imagery of the title, Rivers of the Windfall Light, you can imagine what the kind of sound that a little river makes, or a rivulet, but also what leaves make when they're disturbed by the wind and the sun shines on them, the whole cascading of elements which together form a very beautiful sound world in their own right. In addition to finding my own relationship to those particular fragments from the poem, they also, as I say, I had known the poem for many, many years, reminds me of the many years that I lived in Wales, and it, in a sense, is a nostalgic concern and for the people and the culture and the language of that country.